Hold on tight for the next hour. You're entering into a place, a zone called the alternative to the alternative media. It's a place, a special place where even truth seekers fear to tread.
All right, people, let's move like we've got a purpose. Affirmative.
Okay, welcome back to the Investigative Journal on this March 2nd, 2018 day on our calendar. Wow, do the days go by quickly or what? I forgot there was 28 days in February. That month I'd never liked, to be honest with you. Greg Anthony here, and today the show's all about Francis Joseph Cardinal Spellman, the late Francis Joseph Cardinal Spellman. And you know, in the past we've done many shows and articles on him, and let's just say that many people say he was the most powerful person in America during his reign of Cardinal of New York. We then interviewed a number of police detectives who talked about Spellman's homosexuality, as well as his connection to the Vatican-led New World Order, actually pushing America towards the brink of destruction, one step at a time. Now, he was a fervent anti-communist, and we're going to get into that a little bit. And the reason I wanted to talk about Spellman was I was sent an article by Randy Engel. She writes, it's a she under Randy Engel. She writes a lot about the Vatican, and I've read a number of her articles, and I don't think I'd be wrong by saying she has a lot of criticism, but yet doesn't really hit the nail on the head when it comes to the hierarchy of the Vatican being a complete disaster, not any hope of ever changing. This is a satanic organization from the outset, always was and always will be. So, let's look at the article sent to me, and it's regarding Francis Joseph Spellman. The title is, "What Difference Does a Homosexual Prelate Make?" Well, you know, what choice do you have in the Vatican, you know? On February 17th, she says, 2018, Michael Matt, editor of The Remnant broadcast, a Remnant Underground YouTube video titled School Shootings and Church Closings. The Neo-Catholic Spring, in which Mr. Matt happened to mention the name of Cardinal Francis Spellman, Archbishop of New York. Now, he was Archbishop from 1939 to 1967. Mentioned him in connection with the Cardinal's world-publicized condemnation and boycott, binding Catholics under pain of sin, of Elia Kazan's movie Baby Doll in 1956. The promo for the video reads, "Down in the catacombs, Michael Matt examines the fundamental cause of horrific realities such as school shootings in America. Spoiler alert, it's not the guns." Michael also looks at the Catholic Church's unconditional surrender in the culture war and asks the question, what's the connection between moral chaos in society and the church accompaniment of the Vatican II? Plus, when it comes to Christophobic Hollywood, how did we get from Cardinal Spellman, Archbishop John Gregory Murray, and Pope Pius XI to Deacon Steve Grandy, Gray, D-A-N-N-U-S. Good. You know something? I have to look into that a little bit. But anyway, among the comments that followed Mr. Matt's video were two by Pearl of York. The first invited the Remnant to do some of its own investigating reporting on Cardinal Spellman and inform its readers of its findings. They didn't ask me to do it. I mean, we did a lot of investigation into Spelly's war in Vietnam, how Jim Rothstein, a police detective, had an inside, basically, one of the boys that Spellman was molesting stole his shoe to prove that he was, and Jim Rothstein, the investigator, had talked to the boy, and that was covered up as usual. But anyway, Pearl noted that Spellman was said to be one of the most notorious and powerful and voracious homosexuals in the history of the American Church. And, I might add, the most powerful man in America. So what are the leaders of America all about? Even more, he was notoriously known for having brought John Courtney Murray, promoter of the heresy of Americanism, to Vatican II in opposition to Cardinal Alfredo Ottaviani. Oh, they're always playing the Hegelian dialectic, aren't they, at the high levels? Both charges, of course, are true, says Randy Engel. Now, in defense of Mr. Matt, I wouldn't say he gushed over Spellman. On the other hand, mentioning Spellman at all, especially in a favorable light in connection with the reference to Christophobic Hollywood, wasn't the wisest of choices either, since one of Spellman's closest friends from Hollywood, Louis B. Mayer of Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, who wined and dined with Spellman when he was in New York, was known to keep an abortionist on the MGM studio staff to assure the unpregnant state of his starlets, some of whom were also said to have shared the married Mayer's casting couch before they were barely out of their teens. Mayer also arranged marriages for homosexual stars like Nelson Eddy. The remnant moderator defends Spellman, however. That's interesting. Now, we haven't done much defending of him on this show, but let's listen to what he has to say. However, as it turns out, my major complaint was not with Mr. Matt, says Engel, with whom I have always had cordial relations, but with the comments made by the anonymous remnant moderator who misinformed Pearl York. That, and this was probably one of their boys put in there to prop up Spellman, gushing, "Are you serious? Spellman did his job." And Mr. Matt pointed it out. Now, before we do this, what is the job of a priest? It isn't what Spellman was doing. Now, listen to this. I don't think Mr. Matt ever praised Spellman, let alone did he gush. He simply told us what happened. The moral authority to do what he did came from Spellman's office, by the way, and not his personal sanctity or alleged lack thereof. He did many things worthy of praise. Oh, did he? He once said Pope John the 23rd, he's no pope. He should be selling bananas. Americanism notwithstanding, he was an early opponent of the new Mass and one of the few public defenders of Senator Joe McCarthy. Spellman was also a fierce and outspoken critic of communism and everything and everyone involved with it. As for his alleged homosexuality, the informant here says, I have no idea. Well, we have an idea, and there's a lot of proof behind it. His longtime secretary vehemently denied it, but I don't know. J. Edgar Hoover supposedly had a file on him that said he was gay, but that was before everyone started claiming that Hoover himself was a cross-dressing freak. Whatever. What Spellman said about Baby Doll and lots of other morally objectionable films was right and proper, regardless. They always, folks, talk against what they do. Spellman was basically saying one thing and doing another. Now, the idea that unless one is totally free from sin and any other attachment to it, he can't condemn immorality, leaves immorality pretty much free to carry on with impunity now and forever. Hypocrisy is saying the right thing while believing something else entirely. Saying the right thing while sometimes doing something else out of personal weakness is called a human being. No. You know what it's called? It's called somebody who's a hypocrite. The truth is the truth, even when sinners defend it. Now, sounds like a Jesuit talking there. Cardinal Spellman, setting the record straight. Mr. or Mrs. Remnant Moderator tells us that Spellman did many things worthy of praise. And there's an element of truth in that statement. Of course, he works together with the New World Order. Now, what is the job of a priest supposed to be? And not what Spellman does. When Spellman's predecessor, Cardinal Patrick Joseph Hayes, the Cardinal of Charity and the bane of the anti-life establishment, died on September 4th, 1938, Spellman was left with a whopping debt of $28 million. Oh, that's peanuts. This author is a little bit off base when they're talking about money here. Spellman was an excellent administrator and business manager. Well, then why did he go into business? Why did he become a priest? And he not only put the New York Archdiocese on solid financial footing, get rid of the New York diocese. What good are they? But brought financial stability to its 400 parishes and raised billions to construct new Catholic schools, seminaries, hospitals, orphanages, and churches. And yes, Spellman was a fervent anti-communist. Well, do we understand what the Hegelian dialectic is here, Miss Randy Engel? Do we really? Spellman, however, was not a religious man. Well, he's the Cardinal of New York, and he's not a religious man? What's he doing as a cardinal? And rarely hovered over things religious. Then why become a priest? Because they don't become priests in the Catholic Church at the high levels to be priests. They become criminals. That's exactly what they do. He was notorious for his quickie slam dunk masses. That is, the traditional mass. Since he died, now I went to a lot of traditional masses in my day, and all in Latin. And I probably would have enjoyed his quickie masses because I wanted to get the hell out of there myself. He died in 1967, before the new Mass was promulgated, and was not particularly attached to traditional devotions. He's too busy, practicing homosexuality all over New York. Sadly, there's no indication that Spellman ever saw the contradictions inherent in a priest, especially a prince of the church, who was not the first and foremost man of God, nor the terrible significance of celebrating the holy sacrifice of the Mass in a rote and perfunctory manner. The Mass is a satanic worshiping, Ms. Engel, and anything to do with calling them the prince of the church, what's that, the Prince Satan of the church? Why don't you say it the way it is? No. On the matter of the vice of sodomy, the moderator admits he has no knowledge of Spellman's alleged homosexuality. Well, give me a call. And then proceeds to pontificate on the matter of sin, the condemnation of immorality, hypocrisy, and truth. So, where are we here? Okay, about halfway through the first half hour. This brings me to the crux of the moderator's comments. All right, well, let me take a break here. One of the sponsors on this show that's come aboard is a company called AdvoCare. Now, what is AdvoCare? If you're in the health and fitness business, if you want to get your gut back together, if you want good products, also nutrition, go to AdvoCare, and they'll get you some good stuff. 28 out of the 32 NFL football teams have these products in their locker room. So if you want to get fit, if you want to get on their what they call 180 program, that means in 80 days they're going to get you back into shape. They're going to tell you good things to eat. This isn't one of these Jenny Craig things. This company, I think, I've looked through a lot of these health companies, and this to me is one of the best. And their products are really there to help you. And the founder of this company in 1993 named it AdvoCare, an advocate of caring for you. That's why I recommend going to there if you want to get their 180 program, which means in 80 days they'll put you on a program. The first 10 days are a detoxification, and then you move from there. And in 80 days you'll feel much better, and you'll stay with their supplement products. You can go to my website at greganthonysjournal.wordpress.com and get the AdvoCare website on my site, and you can go there, buy the products from me, and you'll get a nice discount. And if not, contact me at gregbeacon@gmail.com. That's GREGBEACON @gmail.com. Okay, back to Randy Engel's story about Spellman. And she says, this brings me to the crux of the moderator's comments. Wow. The inference that the private lives of public figures, in this case Cardinal Spellman, bears little or no relevance to their public policies and public actions is both absurd and dangerous. No man can be so thoroughly compartmentalized and cut off from himself, especially in the sexual sphere that touches the most inner core of his being. That Spellman was an active homosexual prelate who habitually violated his solemn vows of celibacy by engaging in acts of utter perversion, solicited sexual favors from priests and seminarians, entrusted his spiritual, moral, and material care, created grave scandal in and out of clerical circles, opened himself and the church up to possible blackmail and influence peddling by enemies of the faith, and used his office to promote other homosexual clergy, that thus creating the nucleus for the clerical homosexual pederast. Now, let me clarify something here. When she says peddling by the enemies of the faith, these people are not what we're called the faith of Jesus Christ in the Bible. These are Satan worshipers. So I don't know what she's talking about there. The whole thing, the whole kit and caboodle of them from Vatican on down ought to be ramrodded right out of the country. And we'd live in a lot better place. Network, this pederast network, she says, that has haunted the Catholic. It isn't haunted, that's what they are. From the core, that is what they are. For more than 70 years. You think it's been 70 years? Why not go back to the inception of this satanic organization? It's not a mere passing matter. Well, that's true. It is one of utmost importance to any Catholic. You know what is the utmost importance to any Catholic? Get the hell out of Catholicism. Who's trying to understand why the post-consular church is in such terminal state of dissolution and chaos. I can explain that in one simple sentence. That's what they want. Chaos. Look at the Jesuit philosophy. We got a Jesuit Pope, we got a Jesuit General, we got Georgetown University controlling American politics. What more do you want? This writer, Ms. Engel, is considerably older than Michael Matt. You know something? Age doesn't primarily mean wisdom. So I've had the privilege of watching him grow up through the pages of The Remnant. Oh, good for you. I know that it sounds like she's his mother. I know that there is one special issue that has always been close to his heart, and that is the issue of abortion. For that reason, I will not recount with documentation, as I did in The Right of Sodomy, Spellman's role as kingmaker. Now let me tell you about this question about is abortion, close to your heart? Okay, I'll ask that. Is abortion close to my heart? Okay, here's the way I think about it. I don't like the idea of abortion. I don't have a choice. I'm never going to be in the position of having one or not, being a man. So what I'm getting at is I have a view on it, but I can't push my views on others, and there's a lot of people for and against it. And that's the way it's always going to be. I particularly believe in the right of life. I'd like to see a baby born all the time. But am I going to go around convincing everybody in the world of that? Of course not. If someone asks me, that's how I feel. That's as far as it goes. And for that reason, says Engel, I will not recount with documentation, as I did in The Right of Sodomy, Spellman's role as kingmaker in the ordaining of hundreds of priests to the Archdiocese of New York. He had the political and the police right in his pocket. And the principal and the co-principal consecrator of no less than 32 American bishops. And how many of them? Hey, bring the whole homosexual clan right to the top. And a generation of clerical personnel, secretaries, key administrators, many of whom were like Spellman, active and predatory homosexuals and pederasts. Rather, I have chosen, she says, to relate the role of Cardinal Spellman in the horrific tale of the fall of Puerto Rico and the anti-life establishment and the catastrophic repercussions of that fall, which led to the infamous Roe v. Wade Supreme Court decision of January 22, 1973, a day that will live forever in infamy. Well, I went to law school. No law student never will go through law school without studying Roe v. Wade. And then again, we all have our opinions on it, right? Okay, Puerto Rico. I don't know much about this, but it'll be interesting here. Puerto Rico as a population control laboratory. Okay. Let's see about that. How much time we got left? Okay. The Catholic Church bitter battle over the federal government's grand population control experiment in Puerto Rico. We'll get to that in a minute, but I want to bring on one of our other sponsors, and that is a company called Mom and Pop Merchant Funding. Now, you're probably wondering, what is that? If you're a businessman out there, what do you need the most? What does everybody need the most? I bet you 99.9% of Americans wake up every day and the first thing on their mind is money. How can you help it? Our life is spent in America working for money. So anyway, there are a lot of businessmen out there who have really good businesses, good small businesses, pizza parlors, floral shops, bars, restaurants, and they get turned down by banks because the banks are only funding people with a lot of money, the big corporations, right? And bank loans, you don't go into your local banker anymore and say, hey, Charlie, this is Greg, and my trucking company needs 2 new trucks. Well, I know you, Greg, sign right here. It doesn't happen that way anymore. Most small and medium businesses get turned down. But thank God for a company like Mom and Pop Merchant Funding, because they give you an unsecured loan. They're not going to ask you how to spend it. You're going to have to give them 3 months of your credit card statements and bank statements. Be in business for at least 6 months. Show that you can make the payback unsecured, and you can get anywhere from $2,500 to $1 million depending on your monthly intake. So if you need money, go to my website. I got one. Well, I'm working with Mom and Pop here because I really believe in this. I really think small and medium businessmen need a break. I used to own a couple of restaurants. I know how hard it is, and I told you this story about when I needed a pizza oven. And boy, I'll tell you, I didn't know how I was going to make payroll that week. But anyway, if Mom and Pop was there, I'm sure I would have gotten that loan because I was in business for longer than 6 months. And I wish I would have known about them then. I don't think they were in business then. So anyway, go to my website, greganthonysjournal.wordpress.com, and I'll tell you how to get involved with Mom and Pop if you're a businessman in need of money. Contact me at gregbeacon@gmail.com. I'll help you out there. Okay, back to Spellman. All right, got about a minute and a half. So what the hell happened in Puerto Rico as a population control laboratory? The Catholic Church's bitter battle over the federal government's grand population control experiment in Puerto Rico. We talk a lot about that now, don't we? Do population and how they're killing everybody left and right, from chemtrails, bad water, bad food, you name it. And so now we got another population experiment going on in Puerto Rico, which, according to this author, lasted well over a half century. Provides us with some instructive insights into evolution and the development of the American bishops, thinking on the subject of population control, defined here as the imposition of specific demographic policies by the state designed to limit family size and achieve predetermined demographic objectives established by the state as a matter of public policy. Kind of like China, have one baby, or you have 2 and you get killed. Well, population control came to Puerto Rico, folks, in the early 1900s, largely through the efforts of Protestant denominations and evangelical sects who wished to refashion Puerto Rican society and Catholic culture along more white Anglo-Saxon Protestant WASP lines. Well, this is a switch. Talking about now the Protestants are wanting to depopulate. And the Catholics never wanted this? The Catholic Church? Interesting take, Ms. Engel. Interesting. Well, we'll talk about that in the second half hour on the Investigative Journal here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com.
The program you are listening to is 100% sponsored by you, the listener, on this First Amendment Rights Media channel. You will notice that there are few commercials on this radio network. There's a good reason for that. Corporate advertising dollars come with strings that limit program content. So without your help, these programs cannot continue on internet. or our several affiliates. If you benefit by the educational law programs, we ask you to give. If you are admonished or nurtured by the Bible and ministry programs, we ask you to give. If some voice a cause that you are passionate about, we ask you to give. If you believe in any of these, we ask you to support them as you would a missionary on a continual basis, as if giving a tithe for missionary radio. These programs are not commercially viable and must be supported by those faithful to the cause of truth. Look for the button to sponsor your favorite programs at our listen and schedule pages on the internet. Then, when you subscribe, we will send you the last quarterly MP3 CD of that program immediately, and continue to do so with each new quarter. We will also give you unlimited archive access to all of our programs. We're asking you to give much less than a tithe, so that you may also send support directly to a particular program host, cause, and anywhere else the Spirit may lead you. Do all to the glory of our God and Creator, for His holy nation, the only kingdom that will last forever. Thank you for listening.
Visit crosstheborder.org, C-R-O-S-S, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org. When it comes to prophecy today, much of the evangelical Christian world has their eyes on Israel, waiting and watching to see when the third temple will begin to be built. The plans are drawn. The Jewish people are eager. Most evangelical Christians today believe that the rapture will happen before the third temple is built. Hi, I'm Michael Eugene. I was taught that Daniel's 70th week was in the future. Is that really what the Bible teaches? Have we searched the Scriptures and found this to be true? Why is it so important for a re-established Israel to build a third temple in Jerusalem? Is it necessary to build a temple on the same location already occupied by the Dome of the Rock? Is it necessary for sacrifices to take place in the temple on Temple Mount? Is there really a rapture followed by 7 years of tribulation? What is the New Testament temple? Can we identify history and prophecy? Who is the first beast in Revelation chapter 13? Who are the 7 kings in Revelation 17? I have asked all these questions, and I have found Nicholas Arthur's new book, When the Third Temple is Built, answers all these questions and more using Scripture to interpret Scripture. The Bible says that no prophecy of Scripture is of any private interpretation. Nicholas shows us in his new book, When the Third Temple is Built, how the Bible interprets prophecy and not man's private interpretation. Visit crosstheborder.org, C-R-O-S-S, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org.
The following program is labeled dangerous and off limits by the supreme Jesuit command. But stand tall, people. Listen up, and you may just learn something.
Oh, dear Lord Jesus, this ain't happening, man. This can't be happening, man. This isn't happening.
Okay, this is the kind of stuff we have to deal with on this show on the Investigative Journal. I get periodically I get articles from Engel, and I have to just set the record straight. How are people ever going to understand the truth if they listen to this stuff from all angles? Now, the first sentence here, Puerto Rico as population control laboratory. Now, listen to the first sentence. The Catholic Church's bitter battle over the federal government's grand population control experiment. Now, let's just set the record straight. The Vatican is in bed with the federal government over this. They're going to say they're not, to play the Hegelian dialectic. So what you hear on the surface is not what's going on behind the scenes. They were involved in the population, depopulation, whatever this control experiment is in Puerto Rico. Now, that's the way they always talk. You can hear it from every pulpit in, high-level pulpits in the Catholic Church, and most importantly shocking is what comes out of the mouth of popes in Rome. So, let's listen to what she has to say anyway. Now, she says it's the Protestants that are at fault here. Let's move on. The Neo-Malthusian program was openly eugenic. It was designed to improve what the WASPs perceived, as inferior human stock, principally through direct sterilizations. The island served as the United States' first experimental model for the intelligent and scientific control of the population, and the key element of which was the education of the people and overcoming the prejudices of the Catholic Church. So what she's doing is saying the big bad government and the big bad Protestants were trying to bring in eugenics and also population control through direct sterilizations, and the Catholic Church was fighting against it. What a bunch of crap. Now, the rationale for the Neo-Malthusian campaign in Puerto Rico was candidly expressed by Dr. Cornelius Rhodes, a physician at San Juan's Presbyterian Hospital, operated under the auspices of the Rockefeller Foundation. The Puerto Ricans are beyond doubt the dirtiest, laziest, most degenerate, and thievish race of men ever inhabiting this sphere. What the island needs is not public health work, but a tidal wave or something to totally exterminate this population. I've done my best to further the process of extermination by killing off 8 and transplanting cancer into several more. Oh, just an everyday work for a good old American medical doctor, right? Now, wait a second. So, let's just make an analogy here. Remember how many times they say Jesuits infiltrate all these Protestant churches and then they give the Protestants a bad name? Well, is it a possibility? You think the Vatican's ever going to come out and tell you what they're really doing? It's a secret society. So, what you hear on the surface is not what's going on behind the scenes, and I can bet $1 against a donut that they were involved with that very sentence that I just said. To create hatred, to create strife, to create chaos. Now, how many of you out there think that Puerto Ricans are the dirtiest, laziest, most degenerate, thievish race of men ever inhabiting this sphere? Those of you who fall prey to this stupid propaganda. And then you don't even know where it's coming from. And that's what we try to dissect here on this show. Okay, during the Hoover presidency in 1929 to 1933, the Puerto Rican hierarchy had been able to persuade the administration to redirect funds earmarked for birth control projects to programs of economic development, industrialization, and migration and healthcare. This withholding of official recognition and government subsidies for birth control dampened the efforts of the privately funded anti-baby groups on the island, such as the Puerto Rican Birth Control League. Under the heavy Masonic Franklin D. Roosevelt administration, now let's talk about the heavy Vatican Jesuit Masonic Franklin D. Roosevelt. See, she's not even admitting that the Jesuits are behind Freemasonry. I mean, where do these people come from? And they get these, they just write and write and write, knowing not what they say. It's incredible to me. Why even bother writing it when you don't really understand the truth about really what happened in Freemasonry with the Jesuit order and Franklin Roosevelt, and how they all together were involved in, allowing Nazi Germany to kill many Jews, as well as getting involved in the war way too late. But anyway, under the heavily Masonic FDR administration, however, Neo-Malthusians were able to advance their anti-natalist policies in the United States and its Commonwealth possessions, including the island of Puerto Rico. Roosevelt made his contribution to an ongoing dialogue concerning Puerto Rico's population problem by jokingly telling Charles Taussig, his advisor on the Caribbean affairs, quote, "I guess the only solution is to use the methods which Hitler used effectively. It is all very simple and painless," Roosevelt said. "You have people pass through a narrow passage, and then there's a burr of electrical apparatus. They stay there for 20 seconds, and from then on they are sterile." Why? And he's praised as one of our heroes. Our heroes are not heroes. Let's look at it that way. When you get to know the truth. I mean, Roosevelt worked together with the Vatican-led New World Order. Under President Roosevelt, obviously, I'm moving a little quickly here. Obviously, the American-born bishops of Puerto Rico did not share Roosevelt's coarse anti-Catholic humor concerning the new colonist policies imported from the mainland, policies that involve grave moral issues of the fundamental transgression of the natural law, with dangerous implications for the spiritual welfare of their flock, as well as for the common good. Whatever that means. So many words. Make it simple for a simple man, right? Under President Roosevelt, the 1873 Comstock Law, the Parent Act, Section 211, which was passed by the predominantly Protestant pro-natalist Congress to prohibit the interstate traffic and foreign importation of obscene literature and articles of immoral use, to prevent conception and thus preserve the nation's basic instinct to survive and prosper, was rarely enforced by the regulatory federal agencies. Ads for all sorts of anti-conception drugs and devices freely flowed through the mail, and the U.S. Patent Office freely issued patents and trademarks for them. Nevertheless, the Comstock Law did prove its worth by effectively preventing the establishment of public freestanding birth control centers by those in Puerto Rico. Now, Cardinal Hayes sends FDR running for cover. Now, you see, they always go back and forth here. They'll have one, remember the old story about who's the Antichrist? And the Protestant reformers understood it was the Vatican organization. Many, it's in the Bible and the book of Revelations. But when the Jesuits had to counter this, they came up with two opposing theories. And that's how they confuse you. So they're always doing that, even here. Now, on May 28, 1935, FDR made the grave mistake of selecting pro-abortion population control zealot and politician named the late Senator Ernest Gruning from Alaska to be the director of the Puerto Rican Reconstruction Administration. I think he had it planned because they can create this chaos. You have one group saying no to mass sterilization, no to birth control, yes for birth control, no, and then they just keep fighting. And in the end, they have their own synthesis, and they get what they want. On May 28th, 1935, FDR didn't make a grave mistake by putting Gruning there. It was part of his plan of the Hegelian dialectic. The appointment put the Puerto Rican bishops on the warpath. That's what they want. With help from the American bishops and the U.S. National Welfare Council, the Democratic administration was persuaded that it was in its own best interest to enforce the Comstock Law in Puerto Rico. Let me give you an example of how this operates. This is kind of the cardinals, all these buddies, they go back to their rooms at night, and they all get together and they go, okay, everybody's name that starts with a vowel, everybody's name that starts with the first 13 letters of the alphabet, you're against abortion. Everybody's name that starts with the last 12 or 13, or how many letters there are, you're for abortion. Okay? Now let's go and play a good game. That's how they do it. Now the appointment put these bishops on the warpath, those that were, told you got to be against it. They don't care what they think, personally. But Gruning remained undeterred by any legal constraints. He successfully negotiated a backroom deal with an unnamed member of the Puerto Rican hierarchy to look the other way if Gruning agreed not to publicize the creation of a network of birth control clinics on the island. Unfortunately for Gruning, his old nemesis, Patrick Cardinal Hayes of New York, the master of punishment politics, got wind of the deal. Not only did Hayes kill the deal, he also forced Roosevelt to shut down Gruning and Company or face the loss of the Catholic vote. Whoa! in the upcoming presidential election. Oh my goodness. And here's another priest. What's he getting involved in politics for? Because that's what they do. They're not there to serve anybody in the faith. On September 15th, 1936, the grand experiment came to a grinding halt. Spellman, not made of the same moral cloth. All right, here we go with more on Spellman. Now, as far as that, whatever she said came to a grinding halt, I bet you a lot went on that we don't know about. It's just my thinking. During the 1950s, now we're talking about Spellman, not made of the same moral cloth, the bloody Neil Malthusian tide again threatened to engulf Puerto Rico. But this time, Cardinal Hayes was no longer alive to aid the island commonwealth. We'll get back to that in a minute, but I got to take a break here and talk about another sponsor on this show, another one that I work together with. And there's all these companies that are there to help you, and this one is too. And it's called CTFO. Get on the hemp revolution. You know, hemp oils can help many, many different ailments you may have. And this company has great products, really organic hemp oil that'll help you. And I recommend you go to greganthonysjournal.wordpress.com. Look at my articles on hemp. You can get the websites you can go to. You can get the products right there on my websites and help keep the show on the air, as well as there's another site there that you can get involved as a sales associate and spread the word about the powers of hemp. That's at CTFO, and I recommend their product. Okay, let's get back to Cardinal Spellman. The threat came in the form of a massive influx of millions of U.S. dollars from American population control and eugenics foundations, including the Gamble, Rockefeller, McCormick, and Ford foundations, and the dollar-hungry pharmaceutical industry, which needed human guinea pigs to test their contraceptives, aka abortion products. Thus it was that the Catholic Church in Puerto Rico braced itself for another epic anti-life assault. Wow. Yeah, the Vatican's always going to say they're pro-life. The Pope will say it. But he's not. You can say one thing and do another and work behind the scenes, and that's exactly what they do. Now, you see in the church, they'll have anti, pro, anti, and they'll all battle and nothing ever happens. They'll get their way no matter what. And they'll get you so, you know, one of the reasons they get these anti-abortion people are, you know, so worked up is to get them to commit crimes so they can put them in jail. Right. And then they act like the good guys. So don't fall for that. Don't go out protesting these abortion clinics. You're going to get thrown in jail. They want you there. Then they'll make more money off of you. If you don't agree with it, in your heart you don't have to agree with it, but you're not going to, why fall prey to these people? And that's what too many Americans do. And it's sad, because they want you to become a criminal just like them. That's their goal. The more criminals, the happier they are. Then they can come out and say, hey, we're helping you innocent people out there. Look at all these criminal Americans. Look at all these Americans who carry guns now, and they're going to go into schools and shoot all these poor kids. You know what? That is a contrived statement. They've put these false flag events there. 30, 40 years ago, you never heard one school shooting. And why is it only school shootings in America? Why not in Canada? Why not in Italy? Why not in Sweden? Why not in Mexico? It's because the American people are so deranged now. That's what they want you to think. Don't fall for it. Understand your government's behind it, the Vatican's behind it, and they're all behind it because of one thing. They want to take away your rights step by step, inch by inch, by degrading you and saying that you're not responsible enough to carry a weapon. And they want weapons in the hands of criminals. That's simple. Boy, we can make it simple here, can't we? Thus, it was the Catholic Church in Puerto Rico. How far along are we here? Oh, we're 16 minutes into a a half-hour segment? So we'll get done with this quickly, And here we go. So they braced for an epidemic assault. Oh, wow. Only this time the Puerto Rican bishops also had to contend with the loss of the traditional legal and political support they had come to expect from the American hierarchy because Hayes, Cardinal Hayes, successor Francis Spellman, was known to be willing to compromise from behind the scenes on the question of government birth control programs. Oh, he's a pervert. He could care less. As the military vicar of the U.S. Armed Services, can you believe this? The biggest homosexual in America, priest, Cardinal, he's the head of the U.S. Armed Services, military vicar. He was entrusted with the spiritual care of millions of Roman Catholic servicemen and women serving at home and abroad. Isn't that a joke? It's amazing, isn't it? Yet we know that during the Second World War, when Roosevelt issued an order that required post-exchanges to stock condoms and required quartermasters, including Catholic officers, to distribute prophylactics, Spellman was silent. Oh, boy. Why did they do that? Why did they give prophylactics to our military men? Because they wanted to control all these babies that would be left behind, maybe. Or, as Engel would say, depopulation? No. Who knows? But anyway, further as noted above, the Roosevelt administration consistently failed to prosecute violations of the Comstock Law, except for one or two well-publicized attacks on the birth control clinics in New York City. Spellman tended to ignore the increased encroachment of U.S.-sponsored programs, both at home and abroad, especially under Eisenhower administration from 1953 to 1961. The Cardinal viewed the issue of population control through a political rather than moral lens, and he acted accordingly. Well publicized in the paragraph because most Catholics growing up in New York at this time, including this writer, were obvious to the fact that Spellman had in his employ the best public relations people money could buy, including publicists from the elite firm of Ivy Lee and Associates, considered the Cadillac a public relations industry. Now, why? Just ask yourself, does a cardinal, if you really want to look at it purely, just look at it from the pure idea they try to tell you when you're in Catholic grade school. Why do they need public relation firms? I mean, is this a church or is it a business? It's a business, and it's a damn evil business. Now, every aspect of his public life, of course, was carefully orchestrated, just like the Pope, and macro-managed for maximum edifying effects of Catholics the world over. They do the same with the Pope. Little wonder that the Catholic laity revered him, and Catholic press virtually worshipped at his feet. To attack Spellman was to attack the Roman Catholic Church, which is why, unless the reader has read The Rite of Sodomy and the McHugh Chronicles, who betrayed the pro-life movement, this will be the first time that he will have been exposed to how Spellman betrayed the Catholics in Puerto Rico. Well, all you Catholics are being betrayed. I don't care where you live, who you are. You're betrayed right from the beginning when they start propagandizing you with their religion, because it's a satanic religion, not the one they tell you. So you're all being betrayed. But that's never mentioned in these articles by her, is it? Somehow there's this element of goodness in this church. Well, yeah, some of the Lord, I'm not talking about Catholic people, they're all buffaloed. If they knew the truth, they wouldn't be there. And many that learn it get the hell out right away. Now, 2 American bishops led the pro-life charge. In 1960, the Puerto Rican hierarchy decided to make one last concert effort to drive these evil forces from Puerto Rico. Here we go at the Hegelian dialectic. But what are you going to do, right? What are you going to do? Now, Bishop Davis was Michigan born and ordained at the age of 24. He was a bishop. Are we going to get into? Let me see how much time I got. This is a whole different aspect of this story. Don't think I have time to do it, but let's try a couple minutes here. Maybe we can unravel a few interesting things. The Catholic resistance was led by two bishops, Davis and Edward McManus. Where's he from? Doesn't say. Bishop Davis was Michigan-born. He was bishop and later archbishop of San Juan from 1943 to 1964. A strong opponent of Governor Luis Muñoz Marin, leader of the Popular Democratic Party. Davis was once declared he would never climb the steps of the Fortaleza as long as Muñoz was governor. His compatriot in the anti-Malthusian War was Bishop McManus, a Brooklyn priest of the Congregation of the Most Holy Redeemer, who served in the Puerto Rican mission in 1929 for a short term. He returned to the States to earn a degree in canon law. Oh, that's a worthy degree. That's the law that rules America, canon law, if you really want to get down to it. It's the one that your leaders follow, not the Constitution or really the federal law. And he was appointed Bishop of Ponce by Pope Pius XII on May 10th, 1947. 1 year later, he founded the Pontifical Catholic University of Puerto Rico. Busy people. Yep. I bet you they don't have time to read one page of the Bible. You ever think about that? So busy with their buildings and their propaganda and their political life and their control of American Hollywood and American press and all this stuff. They don't have time for the Bible, do they? I don't think so. Well, listen, we're all out of time here, speaking of time, and I want to thank you for joining us today on the Investigative Journal. We'll be back Monday, same time, on First Amendment Radio, 6:30 p.m., and look forward to doing the show next week on Monday, and we've got a whole bunch of good things to talk about regarding what I like to call the Vatican-led New World Order, all its tentacles, all its machinations, and all of the things that we talk about here for years on the Investigative Journal. So have a good weekend. See you Monday on FirstAmendmentRadio.com.
The book of Revelation says, "The spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Jesus Christ." This is at the very heart of FirstAmendmentRadio.com. In that spirit, we have created the Prophecy Reality News app for all of your mobile devices, streaming First Amendment Radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Available for your Apple, Android device, and smartphone, absolutely free. Get the Prophecy Reality News app installed today so you can listen to First Amendment Radio wherever you are. The Prophecy.
Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity. Invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host Melody Cedarstrom right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free 1-800-375-4188.